one sales guy, and he's closing at 30%. Well, you could try and obsess to get him to 35 or 40%, and that would be material. You get a 25% lift overall, 30 to 40% to 25% improvement. But you know what would be even cooler? Just hire 3 more guys, and then you have a 4x or a 300% improvement. And so it's like, I could get a 25% improvement, or I could get a 300% improvement. And me trying to change up the sales script also has a significant shot of me making it from 30 down to 20, because it's a change. And so here's the thing, is that when you change anything, you guarantee you incur the cost of change, but you do not guarantee that you get the benefit of change. And so in each of the core 4 methods, you do more outreach, which is cold or warm. You go from 100 reach outs a day to 200 reach outs a day. Paid ads, you go from $100 a day to $200 a day. You go from posting content, you go from posting once a day to twice a day, right? Those are how you do more. And when I talk to the most experienced advertisers that I know, the most experienced business people that I know, the most common thing we talk about is trying to laugh in the back room of like, people just don't know how much more they can do. That's honestly the real. That's the real. Is that when I have conversations with small business owners, they're like, hey, I don't think I can do any more ads. You know, I'm already running 1,000 a day. I'm like, I mean, dude, there's businesses that run like 2 million. And so you usually have so much more runway than you think you do. And sometimes you need someone ahead of you to be like, dude, you do like 10 there's nothing. But they think because of whatever mental limitation they have, or like, you've never spent that much money on an ad before. You've never made that. Is it gonna hurt my account? No, they want you to make good content. Is it gonna hurt my ads? No, they want you to spend money. Is it gonna hurt my outreach? You're going to people who've never met you before, so why would they know that you've sent it to another 100 people, right? Is that there's these perceived fears, but most of the times it's just between your ears. I'll tell you guys a quick story about this. So when I had my first, I would say, real business, which is my first location of my first gym, I had a mentor, and he was a really good local marketer, and so he had a strategy for his tanning salons where he would bring in, thousands of customers every single quarter. And what he did was he would put out flyers. He just put flyers on cars and then had like a free VIP gift card. People would come in, redeem them, and flip them in memberships. And so I figured, okay, I'll just run the same play. And so I did the flyers, and I put 300 flyers out, and I waited by the phone, being like, oh my god, we have 300 people in here, it's gonna be sick. And what happened? Well, my phone only rang once from the flyers, and when I picked up the phone, the guy was like, hey, did you put the flyer on my car? And I was like, yeah, I did. I was like, what time do it? And he cut me off, and he was like, you damaged my Mercedes. And I was like, oh, click. And I didn't know what to do. And as soon as I and thankfully he never called me back because I definitely didn't have the money to fix any Mercedes at that time. I called my mentor back up, a week or two later, once it was clear that no one else was going to call. He said, hey, how'd the flyers work out? And I was like, well, they didn't work out at all, actually. I was like taking some attitude with him. He was like, oh, well, what was your test size? And he didn't take the bait. He was like, oh, what was your test size? And I said, well, what do you mean? He was like, well, like, what'd you test with before you did the real campaign? And I was like, oh, well, I put 300 out. And he was like, 300? He's like, you can't know anything with 300. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I test with 5,000. He's like, and then we put out 5,000 a day for 30 days. And so I was looking at his results from 150,000 flyers over 30 days and comparing them to my results of 300 in a day. And once I saw that juxtaposition, I was like, got it. I will never make this mistake again. It was very embarrassing for me because I was on the right path. I just didn't do enough. And so one of the big meta lessons of this is that what presents as volatility is typically a symptom of low volume. So if you're like, man, I only get a sale every week or every other week, it's kind of like, most days I don't get a sale, and then every once in a while I get one. It only appears volatile because you're doing so little per day. But if I looked at your year and saw that you closed about, let's say, 12 customers in that year, you closed one a month, for example, every 3 or 4 weeks you get a customer. Well, all I would do is look at your entire advertising activity for the year and say, okay, if we wanted to get 12 customers a day, we would have to do 365 times more advertising than we currently do. And if we did that on a daily basis, we would get 12 customers a day. And so you just take your whole calendar horizontally, and then you flip it vertically for a day, and that is how much volume is required. And so most people just think that it's like, oh, they can't be doing more than twice as much as me. But in my experience, the people who are crushing it literally are doing 1,000 times more. And that's the part that until sometimes you hear it or you have someone ahead of you say it, it doesn't become real for you. And that's why I make these videos, is to try and push as much out of my brain and history so that you can just get the story without the scar. And that's the whole point. Okay, so once you're like, okay, I have something that's working, I should just do way more of that. Awesome. Well, the next power lever here is word of mouth. And it's not the way that you think. So word of mouth, people are familiar with referrals, customers tell other customers or tell other prospects that your stuff is good. But what a lot of people don't understand is that negative word of mouth is significantly stronger and faster than positive. And so Disney did this big study where they found that it takes 37 tragic moments to make up for one magic moment. And versus, there's basically a 5x versus 37x on, if someone has a good experience, they tell 5 people. If someone has a bad experience, they tell everybody. And so a new business owner often will get customers pretty cheaply. And then all of a sudden costs start going up. And part of the reason that costs go up faster, because you can actually put math to this, which is understanding the difference between CPM, which is cost per impression, and it's like, why is it, and it's units, which is French per thousand, cost per thousand impressions, versus CPL, which is cost per lead, all right? And so if your CPMs more or less stay the same, but your cost per lead has 2x, or 3x, or 4x, well, if it's not costing you more to reach those people, then it means that fewer of them are responding. And if that's the case, and you're just going to still relatively more markets, then the issue is that instead of having positive word of mouth working for you, which would be actively lowering the amount of cost that it takes to get a new customer, you have word of mouth working against you. And so people who would have otherwise purchased from you heard something negative and then choose not to. And so now all of a sudden you have to reach 3 times the amount of people, because 2 out of the 3 people who would have gone and bought your thing heard it was bad, and then now you only have 1 person who's just heard nothing. And so over time, the percentage of the audience that's neutral or hasn't heard of you gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And so it's way harder to grow off word of mouth that's positive, but it's really easy to get crushed on negative word of mouth. And for whatever reason, no business owner ever claims that they have negative word of mouth. But I can tell you, half of you are below average. That's a fact. And this is why I emphasize the proof over promise earlier on so much. Because if I'm going to get negative word of mouth, which I know I am if I'm starting out, I want to keep that as concentrated and quiet as possible. I don't want anybody to know, right? And so of course I'm not going to charge them money, because the last thing I want to do is also have their money when they're upset, right? So it's like, hey, I'm making this trade. You're going to get stuff. It's probably going to not be that good. My only ask is you give me feedback, right? Tell me how I can make this right. Tell me how I can make it better. Right? And when you ask those types of questions, you get the types of answers that can ultimately bring more value to the customer. And then once you get positive feedback, now you have something that people actually want. Then you can introduce strangers to it. And of course, you're going to roll into the next issue, which is, okay, how do I keep that consistent? Because now it's not me doing everything, I've got a team, and we'll get into that. This is a really good one. So the next big growth lever is steal, what am I saying? From yourself. So one of our portfolio companies, which is very large, hired a new advertising director. And that advertising director came in with lots of new ideas. And so the founder, because he wanted to teach an important lesson to the advertising director, said, sure, let's do all of your ideas. And so he sat there, he said the scripts, he recorded all these ads, he took multiple days to do it. And what ended up happening is that they ran all the ads and they didn't work. And so he said, hey, crazy idea. What if we use the same hook that's been working for 3 years? And they used the same hook and the ads worked. And so think about it like this. Nike, on its second year after Just Do It, wasn't like, hey, Just Do It's kind of old. Let's switch it up. It's like, when you find a message that converts, you keep hammering the message. When you find the ad hooks and you find the processes that work well for you, most times you'd be better served just continue to reuse it, because you will get bored of it far before your customers ever do. So believe it or not, there's actually math to support this. So Sergey Brin and Larry Page, I can't remember which one of them, is like a brilliant mathematician and actually was able to prove this ratio out. And so when you're stealing from yourself, you want 70% of all of your effort to go into basically carbon copying the thing that works. And this works across all functions. This works for a sales script, this works for product, this works for reinvestment activities. Like, this rule works. The second is adjacent. So something that's just like 1 degree removed, right? So it's close to the core of what you normally do. Okay, so instead of saying starting a school community is the fastest way to start an online business, right? I could say that would be a hook, and it's a hook that worked. I could say one of the fastest ways to start an online business is to start a school community, right? That would be a variation of something that we knew that those words worked, but it would be adjacent to it, not the exact carbon copy, but similar. Now 10 is, that means that 1 out of 10 of the things that you're putting your effort towards, all right, would be something that brand spanking new, completely, out of left field. And when you look at your effort in your business, I can almost guarantee you that you have this split. And I only say this because I speak for experience. Is that this is what I would do. I would spend 70% of my time on new crazy things, new ideas, all the stuff that excited me, and then 20% I'd be like, oh yeah, I'll do something kind of different from what I was doing before, and then 10% I'd be like, fine, I'll maybe, and this is a maybe. Most times, like, oh, I already used that hook once. I don't want to use it again. I don't want to use the same hook that worked before in another ad. So, also a different version of this from an advertising perspective. Of the 20% is use the exact same hook, but you have a different background. So it's just like a different variation. So it's like I could wear a different shirt, I could have a different setting, and I could still deliver the same hook. And to me, that would still be kind of a 20% variation. All of your competitors are copying your stuff and taking what's working. When you find something that works, keep doing it. Deviation from what works is more likely not to work. Think about it like this. If you demolish a building, so let's say we build a building, and it takes us 2 years to build a building, right? There's our building. It took us 2 years. Demolishing it might take 5 minutes. Just put a bomb, boom. Because the place of the bricks and the steel in that building, every other potentiality that those bricks could go to create not a building. But there's only one placement of that brick and steel that creates a building. And so you have unlimited options for destruction and only one for solution. And so when you do find something that works, the likelihood that when you change it and you move the brick and you move the scaffolding, that you destroy the building is very high. Something can literally go anywhere except for the right place. And so you can't have more options and all of them be wrong. So once you're done stealing from yourself, then let's talk about emotional versus logical buyers. This was a huge, like, monstrous increase in business for me. So, have you ever heard from the marketing world, there's logical and there's emotional buyers? I heard it growing up and I kind of repeated it over and over again because I hadn't really thought about it. I don't actually think that's true. And so let me explain. I actually think that there's a continuum of buyers that people sit on, and you've got people who require more information, so they're high info buyers, then you've got people who require less information. And there's two elements to this. One is their information requirement, and secondarily, how much info they have received. And so you could have a high information buyer that's further closer to this dollar sign here that only needs a little bit more information in order to buy. And then you have some people that just generically buy lots of stuff. And everybody loves those people, of course, but guess what? Everybody fights over those people. And so the thing is that the amount of low information buyers is like this. The amount of high information buyers is an order of magnitude or multiple orders of magnitude greater. Only crazy people buy immediately. It's very normal for people who want to have more information before making a decision. And so when we think about our advertising, the reason that the direct response community typically can't grow very large businesses most of the time is because they only advertise to these people, and this pool of buyers is significantly smaller. But the reason building a brand, for example, and investing in an audience is because you're trying to move them down this line. Now, when I heard this in the earlier days of my career, I was like, I don't have time for that, I need to make money. I get it. Sure, in the beginning you just advertise the 6-inch putts. But when you want to scale, you have to educate a higher percentage of the audience because they will require more to buy. The way to move people through this is something that Eugene Schwartz pioneered in his book, Breakthrough Advertising. And he talks about the 5 levels of awareness. So he has unaware people, so people have no idea about anything. The next is problem aware, so they have some sort of pain. You have solution aware. You have product aware. Then you have most aware. Okay? So those are the 5 stages. Now, a customer will basically move in this direction, going from unaware to most aware. And if you want to go to broader and broader audiences to get their attention, the unaware audience, you typically have to go off of broad curiosity. And so if you've ever seen those crazy like ads that are like weird articles like, Arizona State, blah, 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 has this new blah, like they're trying to go after a massive audience of people who have no idea what's going on. That new, scientific breakthrough could lead you to buying a supplement, it could lead you to buying a weight loss thing, it could lead you to buying some sort of equipment, it could lead you to buying insurance, like it could go in any direction, but it's the curiosity that gets them in. Problem aware would be something to the extent of like, do you wake up to pee 3 times a night? Does it hurt when you bend over to tie your shoes? Do you get out of breath when you play with your kids? Those are going to be problem aware. Now that could lead you to a supplement, that could lead you to insurance, that could lead you to whatever, but it's a slightly more aware person. At least they're problem aware. Solution aware is that somebody knows of the potential things that they could buy and you're helping them select between them. Product aware is at even a more micro level, and most aware is typically your existing customers. So here is where you just make offers, right? This is why the book Offers is where I started, because the people who are here is the tiny audience here, and so you just make an offer to get them to buy. But that only works for this tiny audience. So you will make money quickly doing that, but you will also cap yourself. In an effort to figure out, okay, well, how much should I allocate between the most aware, less info people, and the maybe problem, unaware, high information people who require more education in order to make a purchasing decision? Well, I had one of the most enlightening conversations I've had in a really long time with Ben Francis, who's the CEO of Gymshark, and then he introduced me to Chris Davis, who's the CMO of New Balance. And so we had an awesome conversation talking about what Chris had done at New Balance and helped them just skyrocket their sales. And so what they did is that when he took over, 30% of their advertising budget was going to the broad awareness level, storytelling, emotional stuff. And then 70% was basically geared towards buying shoes, saying, hey, go buy these shoes. What he did when he took over was that he flipped them. That he ended up with 70% going to big, high-level pairings, endorsements, specific athletes that they wanted to recruit that they felt represented their brand, and only 30% of their advertising budget went towards actually telling people that they had shoes and that they were for sale. And so after he made that flip, here's the crazy part. It took 18 months for them to see the return on that budget. And so if you're in a rush, this isn't going to work. But if you're in a rush, you're never going to get big anyways. Keeping this ratio made this concept tactical for me. And so when I think about my marketing effort, my marketing dollars, and most importantly how I measure it, my marketing impressions, I want to make sure that 70% or more of the advertising impressions that someone's going to get are going to be around the pairings that I want of me giving something rather than asking. So when we look at this ratio, this is actually super well studied between 70 and 30% here. Because right now, it's actually 3.5 to 1 is the ratio that has been studied, 3.5 to 1, of give to ask to basically not lose audience. And so if you look at television, for example, and they've already studied how many commercials can you jam into the show before people stop watching. And so they figured it out that it was every 3.5 minutes of content, they could basically put 1 minute of advertising in. If you look at your Facebook newsfeed, for every 3 posts you get when you scroll, you'll get 1 ad. And the platforms that grow the fastest have a larger percentage of this give and a smaller percentage of ask. TikTok, for years, had 0 ads on the platform and just wanted to grow as virally as possible, and they acquired more users because they had a give first, give all the time strategy. And so the fact that they settled on this ratio, and it has been corroborated, fancy word for it, it's worked in multiple other places, made me think, wow, there's something to this. And so this makes this concept of how do I balance high information buyers, people that need more brands, people that need more education prior to purchase, with me making money, is that you basically start with that ratio, add patience and time, and then it becomes a snowball that compounds unto itself. And then you will get to a point in the future where you're doing so much more than you could ever possibly do if you only focused on the direct response, on the less information, but you're actually still digging the well for what you're going to do next year. And so basically you can see when a founder stops running a business and then the corporate execs come in, because what they do is they flip the ratio, they basically pull forward demand from the future. You had the founder dug the well, and then they just suck all the water out of the well, but then they didn't dig the next well. And so you always have to be ahead of demand. I'll give you even more tactics. If you guys want more tactics, fine, I'll give you more tactics. So B2B businesses and B2C businesses do this differently. This was something that took me a really long time to figure out. And so B2C businesses, so like business to consumer businesses, will typically do these types of pairings in terms of high information buyers by telling emotional stories, making associations, getting endorsements from athletes and influencers or organizations that represent the values that they think resonate positively with their ideal audience. And once they do that, they then can place the product next to those associations so that they can then pair them, and then the person wants to buy the product as a consequence. That is what it looks like in a B2C business. But it took me a really long time to think through, well, what does this look like for B2B business? And so I break this down into several tactical things. So number one is aspirational outcomes that you have achieved or the business has helped facilitate. Secondarily, people like this person, like your avatar, that you have helped facilitate. So just to be clear, stuff that you did, stuff that you help other people do. The third is stuff that you help them do, the prospect themselves, which you can only facilitate, at least in my opinion, in 2 major ways. One is that you give them free content and education, which is I make this stuff. And the second is that you give them free products and services, which is why the books are free, they're on my site, you can read them, you can consume them, there's a scaling roadmap there, personalized, all that stuff is free. Because fundamentally, it's 2 degrees of separation if some person does it. Alex had a big exit, now he's a big portfolio. Cool, that's 2 degrees of separation. There's other companies in the portfolio or other businesses who look just like mine that he helped scale, 1 degree separation. I used his stuff and made more money, 0 degrees of separation. And this is always going to be stronger than anything else, but it'll take long. And so in understanding the difference between B2C and B2B in terms of what do I do top of funnel here, how do I allocate my resources, it means that I'm spending time putting together the course in my spare time so that you guys can go consume it on how to make offers, how to get leads, how to scale a company from 0 to 100 million. Like, that's time, that's effort, that's my team who's behind the camera right now, that's budget that goes towards that, because I'm not looking for demand today. I'm looking for those of you who are going to scale your companies in 5 years. So let's say acquisition.com went public tomorrow, and I got ousted for being rude, which I probably would. And then they put in a new CEO. And that new CEO says, I need to hit quarterly earnings. So what would he probably do? He'd probably switch to lots of direct response, and he'd probably cut down all the budget on the gives and books, and all this stuff. Be like, well, there's no ROI in a book. Like, books don't make any money. It's like, yeah, not today. But they bring people into our world, and when they do have the next billion-dollar company, they will hit us up first. And that's the goal. But that guy will just say, well, you know what, screw all that. I'm going to recapture all this marketing spend and effort. We're going to focus it all on these direct response ads, tell people to buy. And you know what? For a quarter, it'll work. Maybe 2 quarters, it'll work. But all of a sudden, it'll start slowly going down. Then what happens? They call the founder back up, and they're like, hey, help us fix this. And then the founder's going to say, I can't do it in a quarter. Like, it's going to take me a year and a half to basically right-size the ship because you sucked all the wells dry, and I'm going to have to start digging it. So the next one is some of my marketing laws. So I'm going to give you a few of them, and I'll start with the first one that if you've heard my channel, then you should know this one. It should be ingrained in your brain, which is state the facts and tell the truth. And the reason this is so important to me is that it forces me as a advertiser, business person, to change reality. And so rather than try and exaggerate, it makes more sense to put all the effort into doing epic stuff and then telling the truth of the story, rather than telling an epic story about something that's normal. And I think the vast majority of marketers and marketing do the second. They have something normal and then they'll try and tell an exaggerated story, rather than having something absolutely insane and just stating the facts. And I can tell you that the second, this one, stating the facts and telling the truth, is the best long-term strategy. And so how do I actionalize this? All right. So number one is we make the truth more compelling. All right. We actually change reality. The second is that we show only what we can show. And so I remember I was talking to a martial arts guy who's like, there's all these other martial arts studios, in my area. How do I stand out? And I said, well, what's your specialty or whatever? And he said, I'm a double secret black belt or something. And I said, okay, well, how many black belts? He said, there's only 6 in the nation. I was like, okay. was like, well, why don't you say that, right? Why don't you say that? So every business, if you get narrow enough, has something to talk about. You might have the best partner. You might have the fastest, introduction to getting somebody to sit down. You might have the most gyms, whatever it is, the most customers, the most customers at a certain price point. You just need to slice the data of the business to figure out what is unique about your business. And I remember this moment in Mad Men, which is an advertising show. It's like an old 50 show. Well, it's a new show about the business. Anyway. And Don Draper was the lead character. He's an advertising guy.
Okay. It's going to get. Is that Uxie? Yeah, Uxie. Uxie. Azaf. This will work. Oh damn. These sport hippocons are not working. So we have to battle it, right? Oh, we don't have to battle it. No, this will work. Da. It doesn't seem like an easy catch in terms of oh, you could just do that. Couple more shots. Got diamond settlement. I think we can buy. We need some more recipes. Crafting recipes. What's happening here? Crafting materials. All Pokemon will obey me. Pokemon for Rock Smash. Super aggressive, man. Easy catch. Easy catch. Oots. Oh, that worked. Seed of Mastery. Shingling. See, that worked. It did not work. Damn it, man. I need more. Oh, we got it. We got it. Stunning them and coming back. 3 complete. You don't have any guidance activated. Transfer the village. See what's here. Mass outbreak. shit, man. Nothing interesting though. Where's Outbreak? Don't have guidance activated. What the hell? How does it land all the way up here? Temple of Sinnoh. Damn man, it spawns humans pretty quickly. it worked. Temple of Sinnoh. Corner Highlands. Head to where? Moonville Arena. Moonville Arena's here. So I'm guessing Cresselia is gonna be over here. Oh damn. What's happening over here? Telling us to head over here. Let me see. How to find Cresselia. Talk to Mel. I don't see any NPCs near her. Oh. There we go. I do. Oh, there it is. It just randomly appeared. Oh, what? Wait, what? Oh. If we can't move in a regular fashion, we might as well just use Pokemon here. What? My Pokemon is asleep. Oh, damn. Oh my god. Where's my spoiled apricorns, man? My spoiled apricorns. Hit them from the back. Oh, still couldn't get it, man. We're walking in opposite directions. Hit them from the back. Still doesn't work. We're dizzy. Oh damn. Might just do a Pokemon battle. It might be easier. Oh damn. Let's do a battle. Yeah, battle might be easier. Effective. Do a battle. Moonblast. Lunar Blessing. Let's see. Dragon Pulse never misses. Dialga's tanking it pretty well. This Dialga's tanking it pretty well. Oh. Close. Classic Pokemon battling. Yeah, that worked. Classic Pokemon battling. The plate of Moonville Arena. Oh, Space-Time Rift. Maybe I'll go to Space-Time Rift. All Pokemon will obey me. Let's get to the Space-Time Rift for swarming. See what's there. Those are Golbats. Oh, it's already formed. It's already formed. Oh, Alpha Progunk. No, none of them were super effective. Damn, close combat. It took out an Alpha Lucario. No effect on Gyarados. Oh, so one of battle us? Alpha Gudra. This might take it out though. Oh no, it doesn't. It's not pure dragon type. Wow, roll of time. Alpha Gudra. Gumi. There's not much else in there. Toxic Rogue. Stun it, man. Loads of toxic rogue. Goomies. Nothing insanely good though. This one's sleeping. Oh. Oh, it's just appeared just now. It's appeared just now. Damn you, Dust Gloves. You need the stun things. Damn it, man. I might just resell it. Oh shit, what the fuck? Is that a flamethrower? The hell? Super aggressive. What the hell? Oh, it's gone. If you log out, it's gone. Oh well, it didn't matter. This guy fought us before. Mod balls. Mod balls. Spoiled apricorns. Whew.